Alright guys, welcome to Close to Broke. My name is Kiran, and in today's episode we're going to be playing 510 at the Commerce. Just played it today. Going to go over all the hand breakdowns and whatnot. But before we get into today's video, I want to do a quick pre-roll to describe a little bit about what's been going on in my life and Close to Broke for that matter. Personally, unfortunately, just after the TCH livestream game a few days later, I ended up falling sick. I got COVID. It was a really tough time. I was fairly sick. I didn't feel well at all. It was really fucking shit, to be honest. But obviously that was like 2 or 3 months ago. We're all healthy now. Life is good. Corona negative. There's other things that are going on in our life. Just like, you know, poker's it's like a girlfriend. Sometimes you just can't get enough. You have to be around them all the time. And other times you're just like, honestly, fuck this, man. Fuck it. And that's kind of where me and Christian have been at lately with poker. BJ's been grinding. He just hasn't been filming at all. But that's that for the boys. Personally, I've been streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at twitch.tv/hey guys, it's Kiran. If you guys would please head over there and watch the streams, follow. It's the easiest way to stay in contact with me personally. I have a Discord. We chat in there. It's awesome. Shout out to Sidicus. He's been coming out to a ton of the streams. He's come over from YouTube. And with that said, lastly, please do me a favor. Follow us on Close to Broke Instagram. It's the best thing you can possibly do. We answer questions, hand reviews, do free giveaways of pretty much just a bunch of money. And not only that, it's the easiest way for us to break this barrier between the camera and the YouTube comments and to get a more instantaneous response. But anyways, enough of this fucking jabbering. We have a banger of a video with some really fun hands of detail, and we're going to get right into today's episode. Deuces! So I sat there thinking to myself, do I want to go play? And then it hit me. I got the fucking itch, man. So let's go play some fucking poker. Alright, anyways guys, super excited to play. It's been a little while. Sitting outside the Commerce Casino, gonna get my name on the list and figure out what the hell next to do. But yeah, man, let's get right into it, guys. 4 hands in. We're gonna go over like one hand. The only hand I played, under the gun raises to 45. We're playing 510. I look down at ace-4 spades next to act. I make it $150 to go. Folds all the way to the initial raiser, who decides on a call. Thinks that's a fine play. Flop is 10 deuce 3 2 clubs, so we obviously pick up the gut shot here. Checks to me. He's continuing to play in flow. He's got me well covered. I started this hand with about 2K. I decide to make it $100, 30% pot. Is the GTO play, I think. Who knows? I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. It's been like a year since I played. He decides to make the call. His range is super wide. Again, that's why we choose to bet 30% on the flop to keep our ranges fairly wide here. No reason to polarize yet or to deviate from that. Turn is a decent card again. It's the 9 of diamonds. Again, doesn't improve my exact hand, but these, generally speaking, don't improve his hands. He checks to me once again, and yet again, I decide to bet here, but I'm deciding to bet half pot here, representing aces, kings, jacks, anything in that range. Queens, excuse me, as well. And he instantly folds, can't even get the bet out fast enough. So, power of position, aggressive play, it's paid off. So now they're probably upset. I haven't even played my big blind yet. But here we are eating a quesadilla. GG's. We're going to go over the very first hand that we do have some visuals of, and this is one of the bangers of the episode. I'm the cutoff. Gets folded to me, and I look down at Jack 10 of diamonds, and I decide to raise to 50 here. Button decides to 3-bet to $175. He's probably the mark in the game. It's been playing a little wonky, but we'll leave it at that. Small blind, the big blind, decide to make the call. It gets back to me, and at this point, there's just no way I can fold with the implied odds and the simple fact that my hand can make the nuts in a couple ways. I think it's fine to call here, so I go ahead and make the call. The flop is 8-6-5, 1 heart and 2 diamonds. Pretty wonderful flop, I can say that myself. It ends up actually checking through though, a little bit of a surprise to me, but nonetheless, I'm happy to see a free card with my hand. The turn comes the deuce of hearts, putting 2 flush draws out there. At this point, the small blind decides to lead out here for $300. The big blind decides to make the call, and it gets to me. And at this point, the tank is turned on. I'm thinking, okay, I'm sitting on about 1900, 1800-ish at this point. Calling 300, and you know, I can't do the math fast enough in my brain, but I'll leave it up there. I'm leaving myself in a little bit of a precarious situation on the river if I hit or I don't hit. And not only that, I'm kind of inviting Queen X of diamond, King X of diamond to just have an easy just call here, or I'm allowing myself to get punished pretty hard in a lot of ways. So calling, although can be fine in some instances, folding even here is very permissible. I will say that myself as well in my eyes. I feel like playing aggressive here and protecting myself when I have nutted hands like the straights, the flop straights. I can easily have 7-8 suited here all day of the week. I can have all the sets, literally all of the sets for my cutoff opening range, especially 7 or 6-handed. So with all that being said, just for the fact that I have an immense amount of value in this spot, I decided to go ahead and just do that. I raised to $1,200, leaving myself about $600 to $700 behind. It gets back to the small blind who goes into the tank himself, and he is looking me up and down. He is tanking away his shit, and I know that at this point, the person I have to get to fold is the small blind. His range is very, very wide at this point, and by raising, and him having to continue or not, it changes that drastically. I will note that the big blind, he almost has no protected just flats here. I mean, he can't just flat a set in this spot, and he can't just flat 2-pair. He can't just flat a straight. So I'm almost never worried about the big blind, but I am worried for the fact that he might have a stronger flush draw, and that's what I said about raising and playing the hand a little more aggressive. With all that being said, and quite a bit of tanking, the small blind decides to make the fold, and as predicted, the big blind folds fairly quickly just after that. So an insane bluff with Jack High gets through. Really, really happy with the way I played that hand. I'm really happy I took a fairly long time there on the turn to make a decision and pick the right sizing. Alrighty, second hand of the 4 that we're going over today. Under the gun decides to make it 50. Middle position decides to call. I look down, like I said, King Jack offset in the big blind. I decide to complete, just make the call. Your throat gets really dry when you're doing these hand reviews. The flop comes Jack 6-3. It's a completely rainbow flop, but we flop top pair, second best kicker. Pretty great hand here. I decide to check it. So does the initial raiser, to my surprise. But the middle position player doesn't like checking, doesn't like the sound of that, and he decides to make it $60. I go ahead and just call the $60, and the initial raiser calls as well. The turn is the Jack of Spades. Pretty wonderful card. We now improve the trips. I go ahead and just check it, and it ends up checking through. The river is the 9 of spades, so the backdoor spades do get there. And this is a spot where obviously I think it's best to go to check and evaluate mode. I'm never folding here. It doesn't ever make sense to fold, I don't think, at the size of the pot unless somebody goes like 10x. But I definitely like playing this hand as a check call more than a bet get raised and get put in a really precarious situation. So I go ahead and just do that. I make the check. Initial raiser decides it's time to bet now. Bets $100. Middle position folds. Gets back to me, and I have a slam dunk just call here, I think, which I go ahead and do. And he flips over 9-6 of clubs, so he was floating the flop with a couple back doors, hits second pair on the river, or excuse me, makes 2 pair on the river. That's no good against my trips, and we scoop the pot, so pretty great there. I am in the cutoff with pocket kings. I raise to 50. The button calls, again, that wacky player we've been talking about all session. The flop is 8-7 deuce with 2 spades. I decide to play a little tricky here against this exact opponent. I think it's better to just let him continue to hang himself and make mistakes because he's been making quite a few, but he decides to check it through. The turn is the 4. I go ahead and bet $75 and he calls. The river is a deuce, so it now makes a paired board. Don't think he's going to be calling the turn there with just a deuce, and if he is, then that's awesome. I go ahead and think that this is a great instance where I'd like to polarize myself. This is what I've been harping on for many a vlog before. These are the kind of players that look down at their hand and don't think as much as in like, oh, he's betting $300 into $200, he's overbetting the pot. This is the kind of player that thinks more along the lines of like, oh, is my pair worth $300 or whatever? Is my pair worth that money? I decided to bid $300 and he tanks for quite a while and unfortunately makes a fold. So it sucks a little bit there, but I guess going with like maybe 200 is a little more reasonable. Maybe he calls that. Maybe he's just absolutely floating like we've been seeing all session. Who knows? We will never know. So I do a really poor job of remembering the hands that, that I lose fairly sizable pots in, or I just don't write them down. And in this instance, it was both. I'm going to recall the story as best as I can, so forgive me if I mess anything up, but for the most part, I think I'll be getting a spot on. Under the gun decides to limp here, which is again that wackadoo player we've been talking about all session. It gets to me and the big blind is folded at that point. I have 9-4 offsuit. Go ahead and check my option. Sorry. The flop is 9-4-6 rainbow. I go ahead and check it, and the opponent decides to check it back. The turn is a 5. Not really a scare card in my opinion. I go ahead and bet $25, and the opponent decides to call the $25. So again, range is pretty wide here. Nothing to be too concerned about. Everything's ABC at this point. The river is a king, an offsuit king, like a king of clubs. I go ahead and bet $100. So here's where we're just getting a little wonky. Not really a spot we want to polarize with. This is a pretty weak 2 pair, if I'm being frank. And there's some straights and better 2 pairs and sets that are obviously in his range. And by polarizing here, I mean, honestly, this is kind of the weakest polar hand I can have in this range. By far the weakest. So he, to my amazement at the time, decides to raise me to $300. And I don't even think about it. I snap call. Again, classic Kiran. You love, this is your girlfriend. You love her. One day and the next morning, you're like, leave me the fuck alone. And dude slam dunks 3-deuce offsuit, under the gun limped with 3-deuce offsuit, and he just banked the turn for the gutter ball. Didn't raise me on the turn, raised me on the river, got me hook, line, and sinker. Felt like an absolute fucking idiot. So unfortunate there, but that's just proof I play really bad. I have a tendency to just, if this is GTO, if this is good fucking poker, if this is exploitative poker, like it's a nice straight line, sometimes I'm like, way over there, fucking to Africa, goddammit, I don't know. Very last hand of the session, save the fun one for the end. I have king 7 offsuit in the big blind, under the gun raises to 45. Everyone folds. It's to me in the big blind as mentioned. I decide to call. The flop is ace queen 7, 2 hearts. It checks through. The turn is a 7. Can I hear some binks? I decide to check it once again. The hero finally decides to bet here, bets $50, and I decide to raise to $175 here. With the flush draw out there and a very sneaky trips here, I think this is just an easy spot where we can raise for value and get him to call with so many hands that are literally drawing dead, pretty much, or have 2 outs or less. He decides to make the call. The river's an 8 of spades, fairly harmless card. No obvious straights or anything come on the river. Unless he's calling me with 8s, then I just got slam dunked on. But nonetheless, can't play scared poker. That's no fun. I decide it's time to polarize here. I bet $425, and the villain tanks for quite a bit. Is this it? Will we finally get paid off by this freaking psycho mark of the table? No, it's not. He decides to fold, and good fold on him. The entire session, that guy had my number. He check raised me, and I gave him the maximum with a pretty shit 2 pair. Every other time I had the best hand, he found a way to get away from it. So, I mean, I don't know if this guy is just a fucking ninja or in reality, I'm the mark of the game. Anyways, at that point, the game got pretty not fun. Bunch of regs at the table. And then with freaking Jesus Christ to my left, I mean, he just didn't want to ever call me or didn't want to play any pots at any reasonable sizing unless he had the absolute nuts, it felt like. I thought it was time to go, and my time was being nobody wants to overstay their welcome. So book a profit in for $2,000, which is pretty sizable for a 5-10 game. But that wasn't even the max buy, it was $3K. And we're out for $3,438. So a nice profit there, can't complain. Anytime you win over 100, when you win 150 big blinds in a 5-10 game, especially playing for an hour, is pretty splendid. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Again, a couple things I want to reiterate. Follow at Close to Broke on Instagram. Easiest way to keep up to date with us. We talk. We respond to every single DM that you guys send. We eventually find them. If you haven't already, follow me on Twitch at Hey Guys, It's Kiran. Make it simple. All the links will be down in the description below. Easiest way to get in contact with us. If you guys will do that, I'll fucking love you forever. But beyond that, that's pretty much today's episode. We're going to try to get some more episodes in here. It seems like every poker player, every poker vlog got Corona. Johnny Vibes did, Andrew did, Brad did, and now, myself. So hopefully we fucking, we've all put our time in. Hopefully it's time to put some poker time in. So nonetheless, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Today's episode was quicker than usual, but still fairly in depth, I hope. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Like the video, comment on the video, share the video, tell your friends about the video. I love you guys so much. And until next time, deuces.
When I pull up, they be like, shit, who's this? Bitch, I ain't that hard to see, so I ain't that hard to miss. When I pull out, they be like, shit, who's this? Bitch, I ain't that